Hey, what is up, mortals? It is TCCrew here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 1 of season 2 of What If Deku Had 3 Wishes. I just want to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. 2 weeks from the USJ to the sports festival. An innocuous amount of time, but not uneventful. As the underground fought against itself, underground heroes and spotlight heroes found themselves slightly overwhelmed with the uptick in violence between factions. And outside of the aftermath of All for One's destruction, Izuku Midoriya grappled with his decision. Nezu had come up with the idea, and All Might agreed, but Izuku gave the word, even with the knowledge that someday he would have been forced to fight All for One's old enemy, kill or be killed. Anyway, it still didn't sit right with him. And the bout of mental turmoil that followed concerned both All Might and Izuku's mother. Inko had been kept in the dark throughout the past months. She had waved off Izuku's quirk as some fluke of nature, especially after consulting a doctor who had agreed with her. And since Izuku had become far more happy and determined since getting the quirk and started his training, she hadn't been particularly motivated to dig deeper. The heel turn in his attitude was enough for Inko to put her foot down and confront Izuku about everything suspect that had been going on for months. And Izuku broke, not about everything, but about enough. He told his mother about meeting All Might after the sludge villain incident, and about how he proceeded to find a little genie. To prove it to her, he summoned the now powerless and very sleepy genie for introductions again. Inko immediately accused it of being a villain, but soon backed down after several lengthy explanations. Izuku explained the wishes he made to her very carefully. The first two didn't particularly surprise Inko, but when Izuku went through the third one, she understood why he was suddenly so dejected. Izuku had carefully phrased the situation of the third wish when explaining it to his mother, simply saying that it was a long-time nemesis of All Might's who had organized the USJ attack, and that the wish which All Might and Nezu came up with was just to take away the quirks of the big bad and the leaders of the League to eliminate them as a threat without killing them. But that it was the leader's quirk which had kept him alive after he fought All Might. Inko really didn't know what to think or do, so she just hugged her son and tried to help him come to terms with everything over the 2 weeks. But at the back of her mind, she blamed the heroes for putting her son in such a position. All Might wasn't exactly feeling great about their decision either. The number 1 hero was walking through Yamanashi Prefecture on his way to see his old mentor. The reason for which was simple, to inform him of the recent developments and to get some advice. In time, he reached the house of Gran Torino and spent about 5 minutes knocking on his door before entering to find the tiny man at a pool of red liquid and raw meat. The codger never changes, does he?
There, keep sausages and ketchup at the ready, just in case I end up dropping by.
Why would you think that? You don't even call, let alone stop for taiyaki.
The old hero looked up from the floor with a mischievous look on his face, before picking himself up and walking over to a roll of paper towels.
I would think my letters would gain a larger response than a random piece of fan mail, but apparently my brain is losing as much mass as the rest of me, considering I never see anything come of them. So, seeing as you've never done a courtesy call or even a social visit before now, something has to be up.
There's some news about him.
Then you'd better take a seat and start talking.
All Might indeed took a seat. The couch creaked under him as Gran Torino took up position in an upholstered reclining chair across from him.
So, if there's news, then either the old bastard's plan are still going or he is.
He survived our battle. Somehow he walked away without half a face.
At all that, I'd almost respect him for coming out of it alive, if he wasn't the largest multi-century pain in our asses.
It won't be a problem anymore.
How is there news and also no problem?
I, for one, sent an army of villains to attack 1A High during a rescue training exercise. Among the villains was a large brute with 4 quirks called Nomu. It was mindless and incredibly strong. If I hadn't still been weakened, he probably would have given me a run for my money.
What do you mean if I was weakened, Toshinori?
All Might lifted his shirt where his wound once resided to reveal the now unblemished and healthy skin. Torino jumped out of his chair in shock at the revelation that All Might's injury was no more.
How is that possible?
The same way that All for One is now gone for good. I literally wished it away.
What?
About 11 months ago, I encountered a student. His name is Izuku Midoriya, and I chose him to be my successor after he saved a friend of his from a villain attack as I stood there, nearly helpless.
You have a successor. Has he received your quirk yet?
No, we're waiting for him to build the strength to use it fully. Anyway, the day we started his training, we were cleaning a beach as a community service and strength training exercise. On the beach we found the unlikeliest of things. A little genie in a lamp.
Impossible. Genies don't exist.
If that were true, I'd still have my injury. Izuku's first wish on the genie was to restore my body to health.
Well, shit.
Indeed, the second wish was to give himself a quirk, essentially a high-powered force field.
That will make him a monster in combat.
The third wish we used after the attack on Class 1A to remove the quirks of All for One and the League of Villains leaders.
And without his quirks?
All for One would finally die.
So he's finally gone.
Yes.
Took long enough. Still, Nana is finally avenged.
I am a bit conflicted, though.
What? Why is that? You stopped the greatest evil we've ever known. The man who killed your master, and you eliminated the potential of his underlings ever holding the same weight and power that they could ever have with their quirks.
But I sentenced them into a quirklessness in this world. You and I both know how bad the uptake in violence and threats against them has been.
Oh, I see why you're conflicted. Do something about it then.
What?
You're the symbol of peace. All Might, for heaven's sake. Your word carries the weight of the world. Your very presence turns a normal day into an event, and any suggestion is nearly taken as a command. Use the power of your words and intellect instead of your sheer brawn for once, you oaf. If you don't like how the world is treating quirkless people, then use the power you never seem to acknowledge, but possess an incredible amount of political weight. Make the world realize their error.
I should have thought of that.
You're a dumbass.
I know.
Anyway, when can I meet your successor? I trained you to use your power. I can get him ready.
After the sports festival, I think I may get him to intern with you. Learn the ropes with your, particular teaching style.
Sounds good to me. Now, with your health as it is, have you contacted Miria?
No, I haven't.
Well, do that soon.
All Might had put off telling Sir Night-Eye about his restored health due to the fact that it proved one of his visions wrong. He didn't know whether his old sidekick would respond well or poorly to proof that his visions were not concrete. And Toshinori was surprisingly timid with his personal connections, considering how brave he was in his hero persona. He supposed he would have to bite the bullet soon. Before we continue, I have something to say. This video is sponsored by Adobe. Adobe is redefining the digital experience through game-changing innovations that shape the next generation of storytelling. Adobe makes it easy to create, edit, and share digital documents securely, allowing you to collaborate and communicate across devices. Adobe Photoshop is your go-to application for raster graphics, editing, and digital art as a whole. At We the Celestials, all our thumbnails across every channel are created with Adobe Photoshop. Adobe Premiere Pro is a timeline-based, a non-linear video editing software application that is versatile and easy for beginners and master editors. Finally, Adobe After Effects is an industry-standard tool for digital visual effects, motion graphics, and compositing applications used in post-production. Many of our voice actors, audio editors, and video editors use Premiere Pro and After Effects to produce these high-quality videos. Click the link in the description to start creating now, and thank you to Adobe for sponsoring this video. The UA Sports Festival was the biggest event in viewership since the Olympics. With full quirk usage allowed, its spectacle was like no other, and the students knew it. Most of the student body was focused on doing the best they could in their events. For the first years, it was rather nerve-wracking. They only had 3 shots in their time at UA to participate in this, and crashing and burning would not make them prime targets for sidekick or internship offers. But those that did well would experience fame incredibly quickly. In that way, it wasn't particularly good for those students wishing to become underground heroes. Class 1A was incredibly hyped and hyped up. Not only were they the subject of scrutiny, misplaced envy, and awe from their survival of a villain attack in their first couple weeks, but they were also trying to prepare themselves to do their best. But doing their best while also being targets would be difficult. Nevertheless, the day and time had arrived, and the first years were led out onto the main field of the stadium for the player representative's speech, that being Izuku, who was in first place in the entrance exam thanks to his rescue points. Izuku wasn't particularly good at public speaking, but he needed to try his best anyway. So, at midnight signal, he began speaking.
A lot of people take the strength of heroes for granted. They see the pros at the pinnacle of the charts and only see the power they have now, but not the strength it took to get there. It took training, pain, and bitter work to refine their bodies, their ideals, and then their quirks to become the heroes they are now. It doesn't matter if the students here are in the hero course, or in the gen ed, support, or business. Everyone here can become heroes, as long as they have the drive to go beyond. Plus ultra!
There was a large cheer from most of the crowd, and a good portion of the students as Izuku stepped down from the podium and returned the spotlight to Midnight. He was glad the speech was received well, as he hadn't exactly planned it out much beforehand. His mind was a bit preoccupied. Midnight took over the sound system as she began to go over the formalities and spun the wheel of events, landing on the obstacle course as their starting event, and explained the rules. Soon enough, the students were off, fighting tooth and nail with copious amount of ice to win their first event. Even as the students participated in one of their greatest opportunities, there were many more plans afoot than simple PR and quirk spectacles.
Chronostasis. Yeah, boss. I think I found something.
Overhaul was holding a veritable ancient book in his gloved hands as he reread the page he was on. His minute-hand man, Chronostasis, approached as Kai Chizuki's plan all fell into place in his head.
Here, this book mentions that a genie resides in a temple just outside the greater Tokyo area. A genie? You're really taking those myths seriously. And besides, even if it is real, how do you know that the temple is still there after all these years? I don't know any of this for sure, but I trust my sources, and even if it turns out to be false, there will be no harm in taking a couple of hours to check the location. All right, but I doubt you'll find anything. And yet if I do, this disease will be eradicated for good.
Chizuki laughed as he closed the book and began making preparations for his jaunt into the forest. His goals were close to being achieved, and he loved the feeling. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, I would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.